Hey skiers, I'm Jeff from skiessentials.com.
I'm Bob, how's it going?
Bob and I are both on the 2023 Black Crows Captis. We skied this last year, we had it in the ski test, we had it in our comparison series this fall, but it's still nice to spend a little bit more time on them.
Yeah, you feel the energy and the fun just oozing out of them. It's awesome.
Yeah, I really feel like in these past few days I've gained a better sense of their true personality.
Yeah, totally.
Pretty interesting snow conditions here at Stowe now, but thankfully we logged a few good days on them before things got a little wonky here. You can probably hear that guy's skis behind me. But we're gonna finish off this run, play around on these Captis a little bit more, and then we'll meet you back in the studio this afternoon, chat more about them, some strengths, some weaknesses. I think it's one of those skis.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's not just a well-rounded ski. I'd say it has some highlights and some things it can't do.
Right.
So we'll talk to you then.
Bye.
Hey skiers, here we are back in the studio. A tough scene up there right now, but we had some fun on this ski.
Sure, and like for any ski that's going to have to deal with adverse conditions, like this is a good one. You know, when you get in those situations, like you don't want something that's overly stiff. You don't want something too wide. You want something that you can manage and control and like that helps you.
Right.
Which I think that's a good way to think about this Captis.
I'm glad you brought that up because I've been kind of laughing about it in my head about, you know, trying to do more conditions appropriate reviews to start the season. And I agree. When the skiing is really bad, a ski like this is a lot of fun and probably the most fun that you can have.
Yep.
Like today in particular, if we had been skiing a super shape rally, I would have been real scared.
Totally. And just having, you know, the mid-width, the longer radius, the twin tip, just the ability for the ski to, you know, easily maneuver around and not be overly manipulated by the conditions in the terrain. I think that was super helpful.
Yeah, it can adapt to those poor variable conditions. And I suppose its ability to do that is also the reason why, like, it's not the strongest carving ski in the world.
Yep.
So it's like a give or take thing in that situation. And I think that's a good way to think about this ski is, like I said in the intro, it doesn't necessarily feel like a just well-rounded do-everything ski. I suppose you could do everything on it, but that would be more dependent on your skiing style and how serious your demands were in certain applications.
Yeah, and I was thinking of it a little bit through the lens of the QST 92 that we did you know, recently, and where that does fall under the category of this does everything. You know, you can certainly see some differences with Captis, especially versus something like that QST.
Yeah, I agree. And maybe we can talk more about that QST later. I do think it's a little different, particularly in like the groomer application.
Yep.
I thought that was where the biggest difference was.
Yeah, totally.
So anyways, here it is. This is the new Captis from Black Crows. Very simple ski here, huh, Bob?
Yeah, you know, I was kind of joking about it with you about going through the construction, and
real easy to write about.
it's poplar and fiberglass.
Yep.
You know, there's two main ingredients.
Sandwich construction, vertical sidewalls.
Yep, and that's about it. You know, there's just not a whole lot going on. But the beauty is in the simplicity. You know, you don't have to have a ton of technological materials to make a really fun ski.
Totally.
You know, definitely more reliant on the shape and the profile
Yep.
to give it its character.
Yep. And the other thing that we were just chatting about before we turned the camera on is a very even flex pattern.
Yep.
And that was confirmed by science.
Yes, it was.
Our friends at Sooth Skis got very consistent values in different sections of the ski in their flex test.
Yep.
So I think that's kind of cool. And if anything, that's like a benefit of having a very simple build.
Right.
It's not like you've got a certain material in one section of the ski and not in the other section. It's all just one consistent thing.
Right. No, totally. And you can feel it on the snow, too. I think we both agree and mentioned that at various points during us skiing this is wow, this feels like makes really round, even turns.
Yeah.
And that's a direct result of that even and, pretty fairly symmetrical flex pattern.
Yeah, totally. So no crazy changes to construction. Give us a reminder of how the shape is changing on this ski compared to the outgoing Captis.
Yeah, so it's a new mold. The biggest difference is in the taper in the tips and tails.
Right.
So they've made it less tapered.
Which is like the opposite of what Solomon did.
Correct.
If you've watched that review.
Yeah.
QST 92.
Widest part of the ski is brought further up towards the tip. Widest part of the tail brought down further towards the end. That's giving it a longer effective edge, a little bit smoother of a feel in groomers, better energy, really just kind of gives it that more snap that we really liked about this ski.
Yep.
It does take away from some other aspects that like I specifically liked about the older Captis.
Sure.
Certainly doesn't make me hate this thing in any way, shape, or form, but definitely a difference that I did notice. More specifically in like quicker turns, moguls, trees, stuff like that.
I feel like you'd have to be a really just negative person to hate this thing.
I mean, I wrote specifically like I am nitpicking that this is a difference in the older Captis versus this.
Yeah, but like we talked about again before we turned the camera on, it is kind of differentiating it more from other Black Crow skis, Kamix, Justice even.
Yep.
That ski's very loose and smeary, surfy.
Yeah. Yeah, especially Kamix and Atris, which are kind of the next two widths up in this style of ski from Black Crows. You definitely see that taper drop into the ski more through as the ski gets wider. So it makes sense. And also from a freestyle application, from a park performance thing, you don't need the crazy taper of the wider skis. And we've kind of seen taper creeping into the modern freestyle skis, Revolt 90 and whatnot from Vocal, but still a lot of that traditional park ski like the Head, Oblivion 94 and stuff like that, pretty much more of a direct, non-tapered ski.
Yeah, more of a, it's always hard for me to say traditional.
Right.
But more of a traditional kind of twin tip park influence on this ski.
Totally.
Now, I think we can transition right into performance. Feel like we kind of already have here. I feel like Groomers is a nice place to start because it's a good place to kind of describe the characteristic of the ski. Mm-hmm. You skied that 184.3 over there.
Yep.
I skied this 178.4. We both, I think, said the same exact thing when we got on them in that they feel a little short. And I'm kind of just visually.
Visually, I think totally. The mount point we just learned 6 back from true center.
Yep, which is a little more forward.
A little more forward, so there's that. But just having, I think just that longer tail look from the twin tip shape.
Yep.
I think that kind of just alters your eye a little bit. But also that round flex. I think that even round flex when you're turning it on a groomer, 18-meter turn radius, and you're using all of it. That the flex with that round pattern in that slightly longer turn shape, I think just makes it feel like a really even ski, as opposed to something kind of on the opposite end like our Monteros from Stokely, like way more shovel, way less tail.
Right.
So you're just getting a different feel. This you just feel skiing more centrally, really using the whole side cut. That longer effective edge makes a big difference in the smoothness and in the grip of the ski.
Yeah, so what was your just kind of overall takeaway on skiing it on groomers?
I loved rolling edge to edge and pushing further into the turn as you went. So as you're entering your carve, pushing harder and getting the ski to fully bend, really accessing that side cut, big highlight for me. Yeah. I did notice that it just wasn't as quick when you're kind of jamming the shorter radius turns. I mean, we've had a handful, Ripstick 88, QST 92,
that were very
Core 93.
Wiggly.
Yeah, that you really can jam, get that nice energy. Whether it's the change in taper or not, or the construction, I didn't have as much success in those turns on this ski. kind of that short radius side of the trail turns that I really enjoy.
Yep.
It was fine, wonderful, but it wasn't a highlight. You know, the highlight for me was really pushing into that side cut, into the radius, and getting it to kind of shorten and build energy throughout the turn.
Yep.
And then fantastic snap and, you know, transition to the next turn. I thought it was great.
I think that's got to be the highlight of it on a groomer.
Yeah.
Is the pop and energy that it has coming out of a turn.
Yeah.
And it really is quite remarkable. And it's funny, like I feel like the best way to describe this is they felt different skiing them than how I perceived my skiing when I watched the footage back.
All right, interesting.
Like, yeah, I mean, I bet you would have the same reaction. Like, watching the footage back, and I know the exact run that we were on, like, I know exactly how I was feeling on that run. I can't help but watch the footage and be like, well, that looks kind of boring, which sort of makes sense because the last groomer footage that I watched a lot was Super Shape Rally.
Right.
So you're like getting a higher edge angle, your hips getting closer to the snow, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. There certainly is a limitation in this ski to how hard you can push it. And I found that like it was more your weighting. Like you couldn't really just enter a carving turn by like slamming the tip into the snow and expecting it to kind of give you the necessary support that you need. Yeah, you do have to like enter the turn more gradually, and then there was a limit to how hard you could push against it. But the rewarding feel that you get out of skiing it like relatively casually is really nice. Yeah. And like that's, you know, I think that's the feeling that we all kind of seek out when we're out there on the snow, is you want that like fun, snappy, rewarding feel, and to get there on certain skis takes a lot of effort, where I think on this ski, it's just right there, like right away. You're like, oh, ooh, cool, it's bouncy and fun and energetic. I did feel similar things to you in terms of like quick short turns. Interestingly, maybe not as big of a difference. And I wonder if that has just something to do with our skiing style. Like I don't know, for me it was so light and like easy to, like, I guess just the lightweight feel. Yeah. And I felt like it was easier to like if you're taking out the snow, period. Like imagine just like being in the air and like trying to wiggle your skis side to side. It's like pretty easy to do that. So maybe for me that translates to maneuverability.
I think I might have been caught a little bit by the difference between this and the older one, where I just didn't feel that this had that, you know, it's not a directional ski like we've been on. Right. You know, like a Ripstick 88. Right. You know, you're not getting that stiffer tail. Sure. It's the evenness that really kind of threw me off. Was like, oh, I have to ski it here. You know, like from this point to this point. Right. Rather than the Ripstick where you can ski it from here back. Like I didn't have as much success skiing this from mid-tail back.
Yeah, which I guess makes a lot of sense because I have much more experience being on more centered, more symmetrical flex pattern skis than you. Yeah. So I probably just felt more at home, which could easily translate to an easier time making short turns.
And like that's not to say I disliked it in the least. Sure. It was just a difference I've noticed, especially given the other skis that we've been on reviewing this year.
Yep. Now, unfortunately, we're still pretty darn limited for off-piste terrain. Right. But I think we did a pretty good job.
We did our best.
And at least my take on the Captis in off-piste situations kind of, I guess, piggybacks off what you were saying about groomers, where I think the highlight is its energy, and it felt like one of those skis that like always wanted to be in the air. Right. In a different way. What we said that about the QSD 92. Did we say where are all the jumps?
Yeah, we're actively seeking out jumps for that
This,
ski.
I felt like created jumps out of flat terrain. I think like porpoising has been a term used to describe like that style skiing where you're kind of like landing on the tip, bouncing off your tail again, and like you keep kind of doing that motion, not like as exaggerated as I'm showing, but that's how I felt on these skis. So I had a lot of fun, and in those situations, I wasn't even really thinking about like how quick they were to get them through moguls because I was having so much fun just like bouncing off stuff. So I'm interested if you had a similar phenomenon, or if that's more just like me liking to jump off stuff.
No, I mean, you definitely like to jump off stuff.
Yeah.
You know, but like this ski made me want to do it more.
Right. So there's something to it.
There's something to it. Definitely one of the better mogul skis of this grouping. You know, like I'm referring to moguls as off-piste.
Yeah.
As in it's not on a groomer. But
yeah.
Again, using the flex of the ski, the release of the tail, and just the lighter weight nature. I mean, these are like 1,800 grams. They're definitely on the lighter side.
I brought the scale. Do you want to check this 170? This little guy, 172.
It's probably gonna be lighter than what I just said, but sure.
Yeah, we'll see. 1740. So you're pretty spot on.
Yeah, you know, and that with the camber underfoot and the fiberglass, you're getting nice feedback out of it. You know, it's definitely one of those skis. It's a high confidence factor of driving into the tips of moguls. I often say that this is one that I would be satisfied trading like a bent 90 for in terms of mogul and tree performance. It's not quite as drifty or smeary or floaty as the bent 90, certainly a little bit heavier, but gives an appropriate amount of feedback in those situations.
Yeah.
So a little bit more business-like than that bent 90.
That's what I was going to say, just a little more serious.
Yeah. Whereas that bent is just super playful, easy to maneuver, super quick. This has all of those things just with a little bit more feedback at the end. So really impressed with it. You know, trees, bumps, anything not groomed. Super easy to ski. Still not quite as floaty though. You know, like our trees here in Vermont are packed out a lot, which is great for this.
Well, with the straighter cut and the width and everything, there's not that much surface area up here in the tip. So that's definitely an important thing to consider if you're thinking about this ski is, if you're looking for it to be a soft snow ski, I would say you're probably better off with the Kamix.
Right.
If you're skiing like low snow trees and moguls, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I think like equally as good as that QS292, just with a different personality.
Yep.
Longer effective edge, it's less smeary and a little bit more precise and energetic.
Yeah. And you know, that rocker profile is different enough, I think, to make that QST fall into the floatier
100%.
side of the category.
I agree 100%.
The camber of this one is definitely kind of
right.
digging the tips in a little bit.
Yeah, which is nice.
Yep.
Gives you a lot of control, which I think is kind of the idea behind this ski. And then the last thing that I thought we would talk about is, it is the closest thing that Black Crows makes to like a true park ski.
I even did a 180 on this thing.
I was blown away. It was one of the best moments of my Ski Essentials life.
I was feeling it.
It was so exciting.
Skis make me want to go backwards.
Yeah, if it gives Bob the confidence to just toss some 180s out there, I think that should say a lot.
Yeah.
But no, I was thinking about it quite a bit, and it is interesting. You know, this is, I think again, it's like kind of, it's worth bringing up that QST92 because we had a similar conversation with that. It's not a park ski, but it is a twin tip.
Yeah.
Where that QST92 like isn't even really a twin tip. Like that's where we were having the conversation there. It's like, oh, it's almost a twin tip.
Right.
Like it's close enough. This is 100% a twin tip.
Yeah.
But it is still a directional twin tip, which I think it makes it, it's just leaning, it's leaning a little bit more towards the park side of that spectrum. You know, for placing skis on a directional all mountain to symmetrical twin tip park ski spectrum, the QST is somewhere here. The Captis is a little bit further along that line without being all the way there. But I think it'd be great. I think it'd be great for somebody who like values terrain park skiing, but probably still spends more time not in the park.
Yeah.
I thought it skied switch really, really well. Like the lightweight feel again helps a ton. I actually really like a short radius when you are actively skiing switch, mostly because it makes opposite carbs feel a little bit easier. But getting to and from switch, it's actually nice having like a longer radius like this because the ski is less catchy and more just like compliant to however you want to skid or ollie or pop into a 180 or into switch skiing. It lets you do that just fine. And I think you could go it seems like you could go as far forward as like two centimeters back from true center if you wanted to.
So like a +4 from where the line is now?
Yeah, and this is a non-scientific Jeff theory, but my concept in situations like this is to try and find the center of camber, and just looking at the difference in tip rocker and tail rocker without measuring, it seems like there's about a 4 centimeter difference in, or 2 to 4 centimeter difference in tip and tail rocker length, which would lead me to believe that you could go 2 back from true center without going too far forward in the camber.
Yeah.
So if you are a Black Crows fan, if you're a Black Crows skier, if you want a Black Crows ski, but you do spend quite a bit of time in the terrain park, yeah, I'd mess around with going as far forward as +2.
I mean, to me, filming you looked about as comfortable going backwards on this as any ski I've seen you on.
Yeah, no, they feel fine.
It's great.
There is just always that, like, it's more the balance thing in the actual park than the switch skiing. I don't notice it as much just skiing switch, but even just like popping some 180s and stuff like that, you can tell that there's more weight in the tips than the tails. Yeah. So you get like a slightly unbalanced feel, and I think you could completely eliminate that just pushing the bindings a little bit more forward.
Yep.
And then for somebody who is an all-mountain skier, and again, we get this question all the time, like spends the majority of their time skiing all-mountain, wants to dabble in the park a little bit, maybe wants to learn how to ski switch, maybe like their dream goal is like to do a 540 someday. Like just get it like this and mount it like this.
Yep, right.
Because it works great. That's like perfect scenario for this ski.
Yeah, it felt pretty balanced where they mounted it from a variety of different standpoints.
Yeah.
I was pretty happy with that.
Yeah. So super cool ski. I had a lot of fun on it. I'm really glad that we're doing this one when the conditions turn really bad.
Yeah, totally.
Do you think anything you want to add? Do we miss anything, Bob?
Big range of skier type.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you said, that, anyone from someone who's looking to explore park and freestyle to, advanced and expert skiers who are looking for something manageable and fun and accessible. Yeah. That can carve, do bumps, trees. The twin tip is super useful. Skiing with kids, it's a very useful ski that has a high fun factor, which we're obviously big fans of. That expert who's aggressive that's looking for a stronger 90 millimeter underfoot ski would probably have more success elsewhere. But
yeah, I think so.
The vast majority of skiers are going to find something to like about this thing.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I was thinking back just now to our first time skiing this thing last year on a day with Black Crows, and Dean Dekas was with us.
Yep.
Who, if you're familiar with the name, he is, to me, he's a legendary skier.
Yep.
He's had a great career as a professional skier. He's a guide in Chamonix. Very, very technical skier. Likes to ski really technical, demanding lines. And I had him ski these during our media shoot day, and he had a blast.
Yep.
And I was skiing them too. And you kind of couldn't pick two more different skiers. You could throw a ski racer in there, and they'd be more different than both of us. But I always like those situations where I can get on something and really enjoy it from a kind of freestyle park perspective, and then somebody like Dino can get on it and just make really technical, precise directional turns.
He had a big smile on his face.
Totally.
I remember very vividly.
Yeah, he was having a blast. So I think that's pretty cool. A lot of fun.
Totally.
One of those skis where, if you don't know what to buy, you could just get a Captis and you'd probably be really happy with it.
This is a great representative of a 90 millimeter twin tip all-mountain ski.
Yeah.
Just awesome.
Yep. So that's it. Let us know if you have any Captis questions. I really want to get on the Atris, do a little bit more Atris skiing this year once we get some soft snow. Similar kind of changes to that ski from last year to this year, so it'd be fun to tell that story too.
Totally.
We'll try and work that one in. In the meantime, let us know if you have any Captis questions, and we'll see you out there on the slopes. Slopes? Hill? We'll see you out there somewhere.
Skiing, yeah.
Skiing.
Bye.